Hey students, Becca here with this week's video lecture on Podium's LEMs and hidden LEMs. Before we jump into discussing LEMs, I want to show you how to bring in an image as an image to render. This is something you did not learn in CAD216 or the intro class you took for SketchUp. There are a few reasons for inserting an image as an image rather than a texture, and they include using one as a background image, which we will discuss next week, and using an image as wall art. Download this week's practice file, Applying Podium. You will also need the image file called Practice Image. Open the SketchUp file and click the Image Practice Scene tab. We will bring in the practice image and place it over the eating nook. There are two ways to bring in an image as an image. One can only be done with SketchUp 2020 or newer. With the SketchUp model open, find the image file in your folder. Click and drag the image into your model. It is automatically added to the model at its original size and has scale grips to adjust it right away. If you do not want to scale it, you can hit the spacebar or click the Select tool. The other way to import an image as an image is through File, Import, navigate to where your file is saved, click on it, make sure your files of type are either all supported or all image types, and click the radio for Image. The image will now be stuck to your cursor. Bringing it in as an image instead of a texture, you might notice it is not looking for a face to add to. Click once to place, move your mouse, and click once to set the scale. You can always rescale it later. Let's save our model and render this scene. Open the completed render. Where is the practice image? There is a very important step I want you to remember. When you bring in an image as an image and plan to render it, you need to explode and regroup it. As soon as you bring in the image, right-click, choose Explode, then right-click and choose Group. Now that we exploded and regrouped, it now has a flickering face. Why is that? Well, we need to give it depth, right? Get into Edit mode and give it some depth. Maybe even add a frame around it. I will offset it 2 inches. Paint the frame and give it depth. Click the Image Render Scene tab again and render it. Now we can see the image as well as the beautiful frame. So from now on, remember, explode the image, regroup, give it depth, then render. On to Podium lighting with LEMs. LEMs, or light-emitting materials, are used to create artificial lighting. They emit light in one direction away from the face of the texture. It also creates a glow to the material. A LEM is created by first creating a material and adding LEM power to it. You can start with any color in SketchUp's Materials toolbar. The color you choose to start with, whether it is white or red, will change the makeup of the render. Experiment using different colors to see what happens. You can use an existing texture or material, one that is on other objects already. However, adding LEM power to a material is done in the Material Properties toolbar. Remember that whatever material properties, or MPs, are added to that texture, any texture with that same name will take on those properties. So if you add light to a texture, everything with that texture name will light up. One of the most important things to remember about LEMs is this: you cannot have any material properties other than LEM power on a LEM material. For instance, if you create a wall color and add a LEM power to it for a slight glow, you cannot add an MP such as reflection or bump depth. Doing so will make one of 3 things happen to the render. It can come out completely black, completely white, or crash the model. There are 2 types of LEMs. The first one is a basic LEM. It is used to brighten a feature such as a wall or exterior sign. It is an effective way to create a large area of light in an interior scene. Objects I like to emit light with a LEM power include ceilings, background images, walls, lampshades, and even light bulbs when there is not an Omni inside. It is best to use neutral, lighter colors like yellow or white for the lem materials. However, using a hue will cast that color down to the area below, which is a great effect. Using our practice exercise, let's add lem power to a material. We will render the scene called to render, but first we should look around the model. This looks a little like a hotel room. There is an eating nook, bedroom area, some artificial task lighting, an exterior image for the background, etc. Before we start adding lem lights, we need to first analyze the model and render the scene to know what we are working with. There's only one light point in the model. There's one reflective material. After rendering, we can see the image is completely black. That could mean a couple of things, but my first deduction is there is no light power showing. Let's add lem lighting. Which items here could we add lem light to? What about the background image? Opening the Podium material properties, we can add a lem power to the background image so it glows inward and gives exterior light. The image is of a sunset, so we should not add too much power. Sample the texture. Make sure its name is at the top of the box. Assign the color a lem power value from 1 to 100 using either the slider or typing in a number. The values must be whole numbers. You cannot have decimals with lems. I can change it later if I don't like it. Click Apply and recheck that the changes took. What about the brick? I want the brick to look realistic, so I will add bump depth to it. But wait, because I added MPs to the texture, I cannot add a lem power. If I add a lem power to it, the render will not happen. What about my practice image? I can add some light to it to show it off a bit. It does not have other MPs, nor do I want it to. I want it to be flat. I will add lem power to it. The pendants over the table could look nice with a lem glow to them, but I really want these to look like copper. I will add some MPs to the outside of the pendants, copper refraction, as well as some reflection. Because I did that, I cannot add lem light to this texture. But the inside of the pendants can have a glow to them, making them look lit up. They are a different texture than the outside. I also know there are no Omni lights in there because I analyzed the model before beginning. I added lem power to the inside material, so I cannot add any MPs to that same texture. I want to test render to see if this is coming out the way I want it to. This looks nice. The exterior glow is good like a sunset, but I want it to be a bit lighter, so I will up the lem power to it. The practice image, however, is a bit too bright. I will turn down the power for that. The glow inside the pendants is really cool, especially because it was added to a red color. Before I go any further, I want to add some general lighting with a hidden lem so I can see if the other MPs, such as the brick, are looking realistic. Plus, I need to make sure the lem glow I am creating is also realistic when mixed with general lighting. The second type of lem is a hidden lem. They are used to create general wayfinding light or to light up the space as any general lighting would. This requires a rectangular or square face painted with a hidden lem texture you create that is approximately 3/4 the size of the space. It is called a hidden lem because you check the box under lem called hidden, which hides the texture. We are creating the illusion of light as it appears in real life without having to place a bunch of Omni lights around the space. It's also important to uncheck cast shadows for a hidden lem texture, otherwise the rectangle will cast an unrealistic shadow in the space. You can have more than one hidden lem texture and rectangle in a space because you might want to vary the light power for different areas of the model. Once the rectangle is created, it's important to put it on a layer such as hidden lem because you might not be able to find the hidden lem material later. You will see why in a bit. We will create the hidden lem rectangle first before creating the hidden lem material. Always make the rectangle in top view so you can start on the bottom of the floor. It helps to turn off furniture items because they make it hard to visualize where you need to put it. Do not get too close to the edges of the walls, otherwise you will create hot spots. After creating the rectangle, make it a group. Then move it to a tag. I like to name mine hidden lems. Move the rectangle halfway between the floor and the ceiling. This is typically where you will place the rectangle when creating hidden lems for general lighting. Now we will create the hidden lem texture. I like to use white or cream neutral to start with, because starting with a color can alter the lighting effects. I will choose this neutral, create a new material, and call it Hidden Lem. Now get into edit mode of the rectangle and apply the hidden lem color to the rectangle. You should paint both sides of the face so the default color is not remaining. If you want to paint only one side of the face, paint the underside so light is cast to the floor. You can then paint the top face with any color. In the Material Properties box, sample the hidden lem color and mouse down to Lem. Add a light power to the texture. The larger the number, the brighter the light. The power depends on how big the space is or how big of an area you want to cover. In most cases, you will not need the high intensity option for interior lighting because it may cause overexposure and speckles in the rendered images. When high intensity check box is applied to the lem light, single-digit power values should be used. High intensity will exponentially increase the light power compared to normal lem light power. Typically, these are used for exterior functions. In recent months, it has caused students' models to crash or pretend to render for long periods of time. You know, the circle of death that says not responding. Now check Hidden. Again, we want to hide this texture, so we are only creating the illusion of light. We already have the light fixtures in place. And last, and especially important, uncheck Cast Shadows. We do not want there to be a rectangular shadow or darker area underneath or around this rectangle. Watch my rectangle now versus when I click Apply. It's showing. Now I click Apply, and the rectangle goes away. That is one reason why we want to put the hidden lems on their own tag, because sometimes they can be hard to find. Though, in a model of this size, it's hard to lose. Save the changes, and I will render the scene. This light looks okay, but is bright in a couple spots, such as on the sofa pillows. I need to lower the power of the hidden lem a bit, add power to the exterior image, and maybe move the hidden lem up a bit higher. That looks a lot better. It's more subdued, as it would be at sunset. The exterior image is brighter and looks realistic. Now I need to add a couple other hidden lems and render again before adding other Podium tools. I will add a hidden lem down the hallway and into this empty room. I assume it's a bathroom. Another reason it's good to create a tag for hidden lems is you can sometimes get stuck in them when moving around the model, and they often get in the way when doing other things. I will turn off the layer or tag to hidden lems so I can create one underneath the pendants. I also want to add a hidden lem underneath the pendants so they look like they are actually casting light. I will add Omni lights here later, but I'm adding the hidden lem to give that realistic illusion of light. We try to make everything look as it would in real life. And we'll add the hidden lem texture to it. I might have to up the lem power, but I will render first to see. The render looks okay, but I definitely need to up the power down the hallway and under the pendants. Those changes look better. Now, what I want you to do is to use all Podium properties you've learned this far to render the practice exercise scene. You've already analyzed and pre-rendered, so start adding Podium material properties to textures, lem, light or glow, changing presets, adding omnis to the lamps, shadows, etc. This is great practice for your next assignment. When you're happy with your render, or when you have spent a good hour working on it, upload an image of your final render to the practice exercise box on D2L. Oh, I wanted to show you a couple of things from the Podium extension flyout. There are things in there you might find helpful as you become more familiar with Podium. Under Extensions, SU Podium, Tools, you can find some extras. If you want to toggle all your light points or spotlights off, even though they should be on a tag that you can toggle on and off, you can choose this tool here. There is also Reset Tilt, which creates a 2-point perspective with Podium instead of SketchUp. If I've not mentioned this already, it is tough to render with SketchUp's 2-point perspective camera setting because it will either zoom in or zoom out to ray trace the vanishing points. Instead, you can choose Podium's Reset Tilt, which lines up the walls to a normal view. Another thing you might like is Light Fixture Outliner. This gives a list of all the light points and LEMs in your model. I click on Light Point, and somewhere in my model it is highlighting the light point. Oh, there it is. However, clicking on the name of a LEM does not highlight that texture, but having this list is sometimes helpful. After finishing the practice exercise, you can move on to the last assignment before the project. This assignment is called Podium Loft. I created a loft in SketchUp based on a beautiful design by architect Mark Zeff. I added all the furnishings, fixtures, and materials to the model and changed up a few things to make it a bit more challenging for you to render. After creating the model for you, I added many Podium material properties, omnis, spots, a preset, shadows, and LEMs until I was satisfied with the render. And here's the final render. Your challenge for this assignment is to add as many Podium tools to this model as it takes to make your final render look almost exactly like mine. You are not adding any furniture or materials. Everything is there for you. The instructions are minimal because I want you to problem solve, though I did give you a few hints. After the assignment is due, I will post a video of how I achieved the look. This assignment will take you a lot of time and work. It will challenge you, but also, hopefully, it will be fun. On D2L, there's a supplement called SketchUp to Podium Workflow. By now, you're getting a little more comfortable with Podium, though it might take a month or two of rendering until you feel confident. I have written down 2 different workflows that expert renders use when applying Podium tools to a model. You can use either of the 2 workflows to help guide you through the loft assignment and tweak them to create your own. It is not required to use either workflow, but there are some helpful hints to save you time. If you have some time, I would love to have an email or Teams chat message from you telling me how this online course is working or not working for you. I want to make sure you're having the best learning experience as possible. Thank you, and bye for now.